Hi guys, it's Elena from Financialdemics, where I give you the tips and tools to manage your money, increase your savings and your income, and decrease your debt. And today we're talking all about sinking funds. So I don't know if you heard of sinking funds before, but I've been using them for years. At this point, I don't even know how long. It's been a long time. Sinking funds can really help you manage your cash flow and keep your budget intact, as well as keep you from going into debt or going into any additional debt. So, what is a sinking fund? A sinking fund is money that you put aside for expenses that you already know that are coming up. Now, this is separate from your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is one thing that's for, options and opportunities when something unexpected happens. But a sinking fund is for those things you really know are going to happen. And you know that you have to pay for them. And so you just want to go ahead and put that money aside for those expenses. Now, depending on how you choose to manage your money, you can either put that aside monthly, or I like to put things aside by paycheck. It's just easier for me to run my numbers by paycheck, so I prefer to do everything that way. Why would you set up a sinking fund? Remember that I said sinking funds helps you avoid being caught off guard and ruining your budget due to any expenses that you know are going to happen. You just don't know when, or you just forget that they are going to happen. So that means that you won't have to necessarily ruin your budget. You won't have to figure out how to cash flow them. You won't have to take it from your emergency fund. And the best thing yet, you won't have to use your credit card or go into debt to pay for them. So where do you save for your sinking fund? So let's talk about some sinking funds that you could actually set up to make your life a little bit easier. So you can set up a sinking fund for home repairs. So, with home repairs, you don't always know when they're coming up. I mean, maybe if you recently bought a house and they told you you should replace this in a few years, maybe you need a new roof or maybe you need new windows, you can set up a sinking fund for that. But then there's also other expenses that you don't necessarily know when it's going to happen, but you know it. So, for example, for me right now, I have a sinking fund because I need to replace an AC unit on a property. So I have money going into that because that AC unit is working right now, but it is barely holding on. And I don't know if I'm going to get through another summer with that AC unit. So I have a sinking fund because I want to try to cash flow that as much as possible. You can also have a sinking fund for a down payment on a home. If you have a goal to purchase a new home soon, then a great way to put money aside for that purchase is by using a sinking fund. When I was actually looking to buy my first house, I had an account that I was having money automatically transferred into every single time I got paid, so that I would have the money available when I actually was ready to purchase the home. So that's another great way to use a sinking fund. For all my people with pets, I've had a few friends who have had situations with their beloved animals where they've had to have surgery. And surgery for pets is not exactly cheap. And typically when your dog, I would say in this example, needs surgery, it's not something that is covered by the insurance that you get for them. So having a sinking fund for your pet's medical expenses is another option you can set up. You can also set up a sinking fund for your car. So there are several ways you can do this. I like clean numbers. I don't like to think too hard. So there's going to be some people who puts like their car registration, their car insurance, their taxes, repairs, and maybe even a new car fund all in the same sinking fund. I'm not doing that. I don't want to think. I like my stuff separated, so I know that's that money and that's how much I have for it. I don't want to like look it up. So you can have a sinking fund for each one of those things individually, or you can have a sinking fund for all of them together. If you are self-employed, it's great to have a sinking fund for the taxes that you actually have to pay, because if you're self-employed and you're not an S corp where you're getting a W-2 where taxes are being taken out, you do have to cover your taxes and the taxes that your employer used to actually pay for you. So it's great to have a sinking fund set up so as you make money in your business, you take a percentage of that money, put it into a sinking fund so that when tax time rolls around, you actually have that money already ready if you owe the IRS any money. And some other great sinking funds to possibly have is for travel, which I love my travel sinking fund. I also have a sinking fund for like little things that I want that are on the expensive side. I will actually save up for them. So I would just put a few dollars in there every time I get paid. Normally I do a minimum of 10 if anything, but then if it's depending on the price of the item, I increase it. And so then I just save up for the item and get it once I have all of the money. And sometimes, you know, by the time you save the money, you might think like, maybe I'm not going to get it. But that's the way I like to do my large wants. You can also set up a sinking fund for things like back to school. I always set up a sinking fund for back to school. Also for summer camps. So when my son was in summer camps, like when he was in school, summer camps cost significantly more than after school program. So I used to set up a sinking fund for a summer camp so that when it was time for us to start paying more money for camp, then I already had that money set to the side for that. Another sinking fund that I have and I still have today is a sinking fund for my kid. So I only have one kid. If you have more than one kid, maybe you'll just do a whole group. But basically, I have a sinking fund. There's an account with his name on it, and I continually put money into it on a repeated basis. So every paycheck. And so then when he needs things, I just typically pull from that sinking fund, especially if it's like bigger things. So recently, like when we went shopping, because he's still growing, even though he's in college, he's still growing. I pull money from that sinking fund. Another great sinking fund that everyone should have is a gift one. Now you can have a separate one for Christmas and a separate one for like birthday gifts. Some people choose to cash flow their birthday gifts. I just choose not to. I like them all in one fund. Now that's one fund I do put together. And so you can determine how much you spend on a yearly basis on gifts. So you can look at Christmas and then look at the people you typically buy birthday gifts for. And if your kid is in that sweet 16 year and they're not working, you might want to put some extra. Ask me how I know. So you basically have a gift fund, and it's a great time to set one up. It is the beginning of the year, and so you can go ahead and start planning for like birthdays and Christmas with your gift sinking fund. You can also have a sinking fund if you are planning a wedding, and that's how my husband and I were able to cash flow our wedding. We actually had a sinking fund. We had an account that we were putting money in on. I was putting money in per paycheck for our wedding. He was also putting money in. That sinking fund allowed us to cash flow our whole wedding. So we had a $15,000 wedding that we did not owe a single soul when we walked down that aisle. Everything was paid for. So definitely set up one for your wedding. And one of the best ones also to set up is for your expenses that may be yearly or quarterly. A lot of times you get caught off guard with those expenses because you're not necessarily thinking about them on a monthly basis. But if you have expenses that you pay yearly or quarterly, you can actually take that amount, divide it by the number of months you have until it actually occurs, and pay that amount into a sinking fund for those expenses. And then when the due date rolls around, you already have the money. All right, so let's talk about where to put your sinking funds. So there's a lot of different methods to this. Nobody's method is the wrong one. You pick the one that works for you. Some people like to use cash envelopes. I'm just not a cash girl. Nothing is wrong with cash. If you like cash envelopes, get you some cash envelopes and do so. I personally just like tech. I'm the opposite of most people. Most people like to use cash because they actually think of the money as they spend it. Whereas I think once I have cash, I know that money's out of my account. That money is free to spend in any kind of way I want to spend it. So I do better with multiple accounts. So there are two different companies I want to talk about where you should save your money. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't believe that your sinking funds should be right in arm's reach. No, especially if you do not have good discipline. Your sinking fund should not be right there at your bank where you can go with your ATM card and just be like, bloop. Nope, not the option. I think that they should be in online savings or money market accounts that are not very hard to access, but also not just a swipe of the card to access. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to talk about two different banks that I think are great for sinking funds. The first one is Capital One. I'll definitely have a link below. I've talked about them before. Capital One allows you to set up, I think, up to 20 savings accounts, and they're all free. Okay? Free. No fees. I have sinking funds actually set up at Capital One Bank. What you can do is you can set up your account there. You're able to change the name on the account so you know what account is for what. So like I have an account for what I just call my 10% account, where I just save 10% of every paycheck there. That's kind of like one place that money goes to. And so that's that. But then I can also have an account for like taxes, for auto repairs, for down payment on the home. It's just, you can open up accounts for each one, name them, and it's very easy to see so that once you get paid, you can have money move. And you can also control how the money moves. You can set up automatic transfers so you don't have to think about it. Because I like to make savings simple. So if you set up an automatic transfer, you don't have to think about it. That money just automatically moves when you told it to. So I think Capital One is a great place to save if that's an option for you. So I will have a link below, like I mentioned earlier. And then the other bank that I have just discovered a little while ago, and I actually am using it for another set of recent sinking funds that we recently set up. And it's just because, I just want to try it out. But I kind of like I really like their setup is Simple Bank. So with Simple Bank, you are actually able to have either goal accounts set up or expense accounts set up. So for those expenses that actually run either yearly or quarterly, you can actually save for them in a separate way. And then you can also have one for your goals, which I think is so cool. But the thing that I really like about Simple is that you set your goal at Simple Bank for each of your individual goals or each of your individual expenses. And then you can either set up to manually, transfer the money over, or you can tell it when to move money over also. But here's the thing. It will tell you if you are on track or you're off track. So let's say if you manually have your transfer happen, you're doing it yourself and you forgot, it's going to tell you you're off track from reaching your goal because you have a goal date set in Simple to tell them when you were looking to actually spend that money, which I think makes it even easier to save. You know, with me, I'm always like, what makes it easy where I do not have to think so much. I also really like that with certain goals and expenses, it'll actually tell you in your balance what's available to spend. You can distinguish between what will be included, so you know like what is actually available to spend. And you can categorize in the app whether or not you're spending from a goal or tell it after if you forgot. So say you just swiped your card because maybe you were saving for this trip and you were so excited you just went ahead and swiped your card. Well, you can go back in Simple and say, no, take this money from my travel account. And it will take it from that travel account amount, which I think is so cool. It's just, I don't know, you know, I get really excited about this. These are things that I kind of nerd out about. And so I think Simple is also a great option. So just depending on the type of person you are, if you kind of want everything in one place because Simple kind of helps you with the budget also, then Simple is a great place to put your sinking funds. But if you already kind of have your budget and the way you're moving, then you can do your sinking funds at Capital One also. But I definitely wanted to give you options so you can choose which one is best for you. Like if you already have accounts at Capital One, then just stick with Capital One. If you're, you know, trying to manage your budget and get all of that together, check out Simple. All right, let's talk about how to set up your sinking funds. So depending on the sinking funds that you actually pick, you need to decide how much you want to put towards each sinking fund for the time frame in which you are saving. So we're just going to talk about a year in general, but we do realize like some sinking funds are going to have shorter time frames than other. If you're saving for a trip, then, you know, if your trip is coming up, let's say July 4th weekend, then, you know, your sinking fund is going to go up until before that weekend. And you have to also make sure you accommodate for buying your travel and all of that. So you have to make sure that you have your months down, right? But just for this example, 1 year that we're going to look at. So you know that you're going to have a year for your sinking fund. Some funds, you're going to be able to just decide this is how much I want to spend. Other funds, you know how much because it's an expense, right? The amount is already set. And for other funds, it might be really important for you to go back and look and see how much do I really spend. So like for your gift fund, go back and see how much you really spent on gifts in the year before. Like, this is not something to guess about because especially with Christmas, like I think people have a thought like, oh, I want to spend like, I'm just throwing numbers out. I want to spend like $200, but you're really spending $5. So let's accommodate for $5. And then if you have gifts in there, who are the people you buy gifts for? Give them an amount that for each person. So then you know how much you are truly spending. And so you can save properly for those items, right? First, pick the amount that you want to save for each of these sinking funds. Once you have that amount, divide that amount by the number of months. So since we are just using a year, we're going to say 12 months. So for example, if you're going on, say, a vacation, you want to put a cap on it. Maybe you only want to spend $1,000. Yes, this may not be realistic. I'm not going to say where. Maybe it's in the States. And so you're going a year from now, then you know that you need to spend, once you take the $1,000 and divide it by 12, then you need to save $83.33 each month. And if you are using the paycheck budget method, you need to divide that again by the number of paychecks you get in a month. Let's say you get paid bi-weekly, then you need to save $41.67 each paycheck towards your vacation. And if you are using the paycheck method, you will actually want to divide it by the number of paychecks you're going to receive in a year. Typically, if you're paid bi-weekly, you get 26 26 paychecks in a year. So if you take the $1,000 divided by 26, you're going to get somewhere around 38.46 a pay period. And that's what you're going to put to the side each time you get paid for your trip. Now, if you do have like things you want to save for, but you just don't really have like the trip in mind or how much the budget is for an item, you could just put money to the side, as I mentioned earlier before. So if you think about it, like if you save for a year for gifts, right, and you put $50 a month into a gift fund, in 12 months, you're going to have $600. If you decide to put $100 aside every month for just travel and you don't know where you want to travel to, then in 12 months, you'll have $1,200 to put towards your travel. And then maybe you will actually figure out something closer to and decide where you want to go, or you just going to make your destination fall within what's in your travel budget. If you know that you're going to need a new car soon, maybe you're putting aside $200 every month. And then at the end of the 12 months, you'll have $2,400. You also can use the last car payment that you have. Like I clearly remember when I used to pay for my last car payment. So if I put that aside, then I would have more money to put towards another car when the time comes. And then just to give you one more example, if you are saving for a house and you decide I want to save $500 a month towards my down payment, in a year you would have $6,000. And remember, all of these examples don't include interest, so it's always good. That's why I kind of like high interest savings accounts or even money market accounts to save your sinking funds in, just so you can get a better interest rate than what you're going to get at your typical brick and mortar bank for your savings. In the comments below, let me know which sinking fund that you're going to create now if you don't have one already, or if you already have sinking funds, let me know what you're saving for. It might trigger me to decide I need another one to save for also, or somebody else in the community. I'm all for helping each other out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend. And if you have not subscribed, go ahead and hit that button and hit the notification bell too, because I don't want you to miss another upload. And I will see you next week with an all new video. Bye.